All right, let's jump right in. We've all seen it, right? Companies that talk a huge game about learning from their mistakes. They've got the meetings, they've got the documents, all the buzzwords. But when you really look closely, nothing ever actually changes. And it turns out, a lot of organizations are experts at performing learning, but not really doing it. So today, we're going to break down how to fix that for good.
I want you to just picture this scene for a second, because I guarantee it's happening somewhere right now. You've got this junior analyst, super smart, full of energy, and they pitch this brilliant, maybe a little risky idea. And then the most senior person in the room just kind of leans back, crosses their arms, and says 5 little words. I just don't see it. And bam, the idea's dead, gone. 6 months later, a competitor launches that exact same feature and absolutely crushes it. The price of that VP's comfort? A massive loss in the market.
And this gets to the very heart of the problem. You see, the bad call itself wasn't the real issue. The real disaster was that the company never learned a single thing from it. Sure, they had the right meetings, they probably even had special folders for learnings, but it was all just for show. They were checking boxes. They were performing learning, not actually doing it. And that performance is what holds so many amazing teams back.
So, what's the fix? Well, it's a concept called an accountability firewall. Now think of it like this. It's a 4-layer system that's designed not to punish people, but to protect the entire organization from its own worst instincts. It's a structure that you build to absorb failure, force the truth out into the open, and, this is the most important part, convert all of that pain into genuinely better behavior.
So let's see how this thing gets built, starting with Layer 1, black box learning. The core idea here is so simple, but it is powerful. Failure must leave a scar. Now, I'm not talking about a scar on a person. I'm talking about a scar on the system. When something goes wrong, it has to lead to a real, tangible, visible change. Otherwise, let's be honest, you haven't actually learned anything. And what I love about this is the contrast it shows. Our default human instinct is always the blame game. The first thing we ask is, who screwed up? But the second you ask that question, everyone gets defensive, the truth gets buried, and you learn nothing. You know who does the opposite? The aviation industry. After a crash, they don't hunt for a scapegoat. They do a full system analysis. They ask, what in our system, in our checklists, our training, our design, what made this failure possible in the first place? It's a total game changer. And that leads us to the first non-negotiable rule of the firewall. No significant incident. I don't care if it's a server outage or a huge deal you lost, it is not considered over until it results in at least one visible structural change to the way you operate. No more reports that just sit on a server and gather digital dust. Learning has to lead to action, period.
Okay, so what does that action actually look like? Well, every postmortem, every review has to produce 3 specific things. Number 1, a structural change. That could be a new company policy, a new sign-off owner, or a change in process. Number 2, an updated metric. A new leading indicator you can track to see trouble coming from a mile away. And number 3, an explicit guardrail. This is like a new kill switch or a hard and fast rule that makes it impossible for that exact failure to happen again. If your review doesn't produce these 3 things, you're not done yet.
All right, Layer 2. This one attacks a completely different problem, ego. It's called written first, and it's all about designing a feedback process where good ideas can actually survive, no matter who is in the room. Let's be real. Most companies default to live feedback in meetings, and it is a terrible, terrible setup. It just becomes a performance. It rewards people who have quick, snappy reactions and who are good at sounding smart, not people who have done thoughtful analysis. On the flip side, a written-first culture, which is famous at places like Amazon, changes the entire dynamic. It forces people to actually reflect, and it focuses the entire conversation on the idea, not the person presenting it.
The rule for this layer is so simple, but it is absolutely transformative. For any decision that matters, no idea gets judged before it has been read. That's it. This simple rule forces a pause, it calms down those emotional reactions, and it makes space for genuine consideration. And here's exactly how you do it. Step 1. Require a short, written document for any big decision. Step 2. Start the meeting with 15 minutes of silent reading. Nobody talks, everyone just reads. Step 3. Once you start talking, it's questions first. Clarifying questions only before anyone is allowed to share an opinion. And finally, Step 4. You close the meeting with the decisions and the next steps documented in writing. This simple process protects great ideas from bad meetings.
Moving on to Layer 3.
This one is all about achieving surgical clarity. It's called intent-coded communication, and its only job is to completely get rid of that fuzzy, ambiguous language that people love to hide behind.
I mean, how many of us are just drowning in emails and messages with vague subject lines like thoughts or checking in? It's impossible to know what's important. This system, which is actually borrowed from the military, fixes that with 4 super simple tags. Action means you need to do something. Decide means a choice needs to be made. Info is just an update, no reply needed. And risk is a heads up that a problem might be coming.
So the rule here is crystal clear. Every critical message has to carry its own instruction. By making these tags mandatory, you just strip away all plausible deniability. Nobody can ever say, "Oh, sorry, I missed that," or "I didn't know you needed a decision from me." It makes it painfully obvious who knew what, when they knew it, and what they were supposed to do. You see, clarity is accountability.
And that brings us to the 4th and final layer, the ethical gate. Because let's face it, true accountability isn't just about your internal stuff. It's about your impact on the outside world, on your customers and your users. This layer is all about building products with a spine.
The rule here is simple, but it's profound. If you are shipping something that is designed to change user behavior, whether that's a new feature, a different pricing model, or some kind of growth hack, it cannot go live without first passing an ethical test. This isn't some checklist you do at the end. It is a hard gate in the process itself.
And this test boils down to 3 really simple but really rigorous questions. 1. Does this change actually help the user achieve their goals? 2. Do the benefits for the user genuinely outweigh the costs? And I mean their time, their money, their privacy. And 3, this is the ultimate stress test. Are you being transparent? Could you explain exactly how this thing works to your smartest, most skeptical user and not feel slimy? If the answer to any of these is no, you don't ship. It's that simple.
Okay, so the 4 layers make sense in theory, but how in the world do you actually install this system in a real company? Well, the key is to be sneaky about it. You don't roll this out with some big top-down announcement. You just start encoding it, piece by piece, into how your team already works.
Here is your simple, actionable playbook. First, take a real failure from the last year and force it through the Layer 1 process. Demand that structural change. Second, pick just one type of decision, maybe it's marketing budgets, and make it written first. Third, get one team, just one, to start using those 4 communication tags. And fourth, pick one feature that's already live and run it through that ethical gate. These little actions send a huge signal that the change is real.
Now, to really bring this all home, let's turn the lens back on your organization. If you want to figure out if your feedback loops are the real deal or if they're just for show, you can ask a few key questions that will absolutely expose the truth.
So, first question, think about your last major failure, the last big incident. What permanent rule, or new metric, or changed process came out of it? If the answer is nothing, or maybe we wrote a report, then you know for a fact that layer 1 of your firewall is completely missing.
Question 2. Look at the next big project on your company's roadmap. Is that idea being rigorously challenged in a written document before the big presentation meeting, or are you just going to let its fate be decided by whoever is the best performer in the room that day? This tests layer 2.
And finally, the toughest question of all, the real gut check. When was the last time you or your team killed a feature for ethical reasons, even when you knew it probably would have boosted a key metric? If you can't think of one, that's a pretty strong sign that layer 4 is just decoration.
You know, at the end of the day, an accountability firewall isn't about being tougher on people. It's about creating a system where failures simply cannot be ignored, where great ideas can't be casually shot down by the highest paid person's opinion, and where users can't be exploited. Because the companies that truly transform, they do it not by changing what they build, but by fundamentally changing how they learn. And that right there is the difference between just going through the motions and building a true, lasting competitive advantage.